There are mysteries that most people will never understand. Mysteries that go beyond logic, matter, and time. The cycle of reincarnations is one of them. Within the deepest teachings of Buddhism lies a truth few people know. There are clear signs when a soul is living its final existence on the earthly plane. And if you've noticed some of these signs, it's possible you're not here by chance. Since ancient times, Buddhist masters have taught that life doesn't begin at birth, nor does it end at death. Existence is a cycle, a wheel called samsara, where the soul is born, lives, dies, and is reborn until it learns everything it needs to break free. But few are aware that there are unmistakable indicators, a set of signs that suggest a soul is close to breaking that cycle. These signs are not physical. They don't appear as marks on the body. Instead, they manifest through behavior, worldview, sensitivity, and how one perceives their own existence. If you've ever felt different, out of place, or disconnected from the usual concerns of this world, maybe it's not your imagination. Maybe your soul is indeed in the final phase of its earthly journey. In this video, you'll discover 9 powerful signs taught by Buddhist masters for millennia that reveal when a soul is fulfilling its final life cycle. Each sign brings a profound understanding that can forever change how you see yourself, your purpose, and your role in this world. Stay with me until the end, because the last sign is the most powerful and rarest of all. Very few people carry it, and if you recognize it in yourself, you can be sure your soul is no longer trapped in the wheel of suffering. It's ready to break free. If you wish to understand this truth, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and comment below. My soul seeks liberation. This journey begins with knowledge, but it ends in consciousness. Before we begin, understand something that goes beyond books, lectures, or any external source. These signs are not myths or superstitions. They are spiritual codes, codes that only appear when a soul has nearly completed its journey on the wheel of life. If you feel like you no longer belong to this world the way you once did, perhaps you are closer to liberation than you realize. In Buddhism, nothing is by chance. The life you live, the people you meet, the challenges you face, all of it is part of a script your soul chose before you were born. And when the soul nears the end of its incarnational journey, the signs begin to surface. Subtle at first, but impossible to ignore. It starts with a growing restlessness, a feeling of being out of the game, no longer able to fit into the patterns that most people accept without question. Maybe you've felt it. That strange sense that the world feels artificial, that chasing money, status, and conflict no longer makes sense. It's as though you see the world playing a game, and suddenly you realize, I no longer want to play. This isn't sadness. This isn't depression. It's awakening. It's your soul whispering that your journey is nearing its end. And if you feel this, know that it is no coincidence you're watching this now. None of this is by chance. The simple fact that you're seeking this knowledge is itself one of the signs. Life has likely been sending you these signals longer than you think. From this point on, we will explore the 9 signs that, according to Buddhist teachings, indicate your soul is living its final earthly incarnation. The more of these signs you recognize, the more certain it becomes that your life has a far greater purpose than merely surviving. Being born, working, paying bills, and dying. That's just the surface. Your mission is deeper, much deeper. But it doesn't end there. There is a question few dare to ask. What happens after the final incarnation? When the soul finally breaks free from the cycle of births and deaths, where does it go? What does it become? Is there a place, a state, a new consciousness? If you stay until the end, I promise to reveal what Buddhist wisdom says about that final destiny. Because what you're about to hear is not just information, it is a key. A spiritual key that could unlock memories buried within your soul for hundreds, maybe thousands of years. And once you hear these signs, you cannot go back. This rejection of conflict begins to cultivate within you a far more compassionate outlook. You start to see that those who live in arguments, disputes, and aggression are, in fact, deeply lost, wounded, and unconscious. And this no longer sparks anger in you. It sparks compassion. You understand that everyone is at their own level of consciousness, their own point in the journey, their own process. It is no longer your role to try to change anyone. If you notice that your energy no longer aligns with arguments, fights, toxic environments, or draining relationships, if you feel an almost physical rejection of anything involving competition, demands, or drama, understand this. Your soul is showing you that it has already transcended that game. And this, without a doubt, is one of the clearest signs that your journey in this cycle is nearing its end. The fifth sign is the emergence of an almost uncontrollable need to seek spiritual answers. And this search isn't casual curiosity. It's not about religion, dogma, or belonging to a group. It's an inner calling, a deep, urgent, often anguished thirst to understand who you are, why you're here, and what the true meaning of existence is. While most people are busy solving material problems, building careers, accumulating possessions, or chasing status, those who carry this sign simply can't live on the surface anymore. It's as if none of it has flavor, color, or meaning. The soul starts pushing you inward, deeper, beyond what the eyes can see. And this search isn't easy. You begin compulsively reading about spirituality, life after death, reincarnation, meditation, consciousness, universal laws, quantum physics, ancient wisdom. And the more you discover, the more you realize how little you truly know. That existence is an infinite mystery, and your soul is here not to flee from it, but to cross it. This spiritual thirst also makes you uncomfortable with anything shallow, superficial, or trivial. Empty conversations begin to irritate you. Consumerist, materialistic, or vain environments suffocate you. You start needing more silence, more answers, more connection. Often, you begin to isolate yourself, not out of sadness or loneliness, but because, deep down, you understand that the real dialogue you need is between you and your own soul. And the more you search, the more you realize. The answers were never outside. They weren't in books, religions, or gurus. They were always within, in moments of silence, in meditation, in connection with nature, in the simple act of being present, conscious, and whole in the here and now. That's when everything starts to make sense. That's when the game of existence changes. But this search isn't comfortable. It hurts. It often distances you from those you love, isolates you from environments that once seemed normal, and puts you on a path that, from the outside, seems lonely. But deep down, you know this isn't a path of loneliness. It's a path of return. A return back to home, back to your own essence, back to the consciousness that's been dormant for lifetimes. If you feel this thirst, this hunger, this urgency to understand who you are, to break free from cycles of pain, to stop spinning in the wheel of suffering, know that this isn't by chance. It's not a spiritual trend. It's not a phase. It's your soul telling you, with all the silent strength it has, that you're nearing the end of your journey here, that this is your last life. The sixth sign emerges when you realize that everything happening in your life, absolutely everything, is in fact a direct consequence of the choices, thoughts, actions, and vibrations you've been emitting. Not just in this life, but across all your existences. And this perception is no longer just a nice theory. It becomes a truth you feel in your body, your chest, your soul. Suddenly, you start to clearly see the movements of karma. The responses are almost instantaneous. You think, and something happens. You feel, and life delivers. You choose, and the consequence arrives, sometimes in hours or days, no longer years or decades. The time between cause and effect shrinks drastically. It's as if the universe is saying, "You already know how this works. Now, there's no ignoring it." And this makes you understand. You were never a victim of anything. It was never bad luck, never good luck, never punishment. It was, and always will be, just the reflection of what your own soul chose, created, and nurtured. This perception pulls you out of the victim role and places you, irreversibly, in the role of co-creator, of being fully responsible for your own journey. And that changes everything. But this awareness also hurts, because it forces you to look back at all the choices, mistakes, wounds, and pains, and understand that everything, absolutely everything, was necessary. It was learning. It was a spiritual contract. There's no more guilt, no more regret, only acceptance, understanding, and a deep desire to do differently, to close cycles, to clear the last remnants of karma still binding you here. From this point, you start living completely differently. Every word, every thought, every action becomes sacred. You understand that everything you do, even the smallest gesture, reverberates in the invisible field of existence and comes back to you, sometimes subtly, sometimes like a giant wave. That's why those who carry this sign naturally become quieter, more careful, more intentional. Not out of fear of karma, but because they now understand how it all works. And the stronger this awareness grows, the more you feel you can't waste energy on what doesn't build, heal, or elevate. You start choosing your words, relationships, places, and thoughts more carefully. Everything becomes a conscious, clean choice, aligned with what your soul truly wants to live. And this, little by little, disconnects you from the last threads keeping you tied to samsara, the cycle of reincarnations. If you feel your entire life has become a perfect mirror of what you vibrate, think, and do, if you notice the universe responds almost immediately, that lessons come quickly, that karmic returns are clearer than ever, then understand, your soul is no longer here to accumulate karma. It's here to finalize, to clear, to close. And this is one of the clearest signs that you're living your final turn on this wheel. The seventh sign manifests as an uncontrollable desire to serve, to help, to ease another's pain, to make the world a slightly better place, even if just around you. And what's most curious is that this doesn't come from obligation or a need for approval. It comes as a natural expansion of your own consciousness. It's as if, suddenly, you understand. There's no more meaning in living just for yourself. You start to realize that helping, healing, teaching, listening, supporting, embracing, whether through big actions or small gestures, is, in fact, what your soul most wants to do. And it doesn't matter if you don't have great resources, a platform, or fame. You realize that serving isn't about quantity. It's about presence, intention, and energy. And this desire to serve comes with a profound shift in values. What once seemed a priority, earning more, achieving more, being more, simply loses importance. What fulfills you now is knowing that, in some way, you're bringing relief, clarity, peace or comfort to someone. Even if it's just one person, in one moment, on one day, that's enough. And it brings a kind of fulfillment nothing in the material world ever did. What's most curious is that often this desire to serve comes without knowing how. You don't know exactly what to do or where to start, but you feel, almost physically, that your life needs to be useful for something greater. And little by little, the answers start to come. Opportunities appear. People seek you out. Paths open. Because when the intention is pure, the entire universe conspires to let your energy of service manifest in the world. This sign also makes you realize you're no longer interested in competing, proving anything to anyone, or placing yourself above others. On the contrary, you feel we're all equal, all suffering, learning, trying, failing, succeeding. And this makes you more humble, more empathetic, more available. Not out of obligation, but because that's how your soul vibrates now. On the other hand, this energy of service also makes you understand your own limits. You realize you can't carry everyone or save those who don't want to be saved. And you learn, over time, to offer help, but without losing yourself. To give love, but without erasing yourself. To hold light, but without burning out to the point of dimming your own. Because now you understand, serving isn't about sacrificing, it's about aligning. If you feel your greatest desire today is simply to be useful, to be light, to be a bridge, to be a channel, then know, you are already walking the path of the soul's return. If you feel your life needs a greater purpose beyond yourself, understand that this isn't a phase. It's not fleeting sensitivity. It's your soul showing you, with utter clarity, that it's no longer here to get lost in its own ego. It's here to finalize, to serve, to leave a trail of light before it goes, because this is your final turn. The eighth sign emerges when, almost inexplicably, you start to develop a deep awareness of impermanence. You realize very clearly that nothing is fixed, nothing is guaranteed, nothing is eternal in this world. Everything is born, grows, transforms, and dies. And this doesn't scare you. On the contrary, this perception frees you. While most people live fleeing the idea of change, aging, loss, or death, those who carry this sign simply understand, naturally, that impermanence is the only constant truth of life. With this realization, you stop clinging. You stop trying to control everything. You stop fighting the flow of existence. And finally, you begin to flow with it. This awareness changes everything. You start to value what truly matters. A sunset, a genuine smile, a hug, a deep conversation, a moment of silence, the smell of rain, the sound of the wind. Everything gains immense importance because you understand none of it will last forever. And precisely because of that, every moment becomes sacred. At the same time, you begin to let go. You let go of people who don't want to stay. Let go of expectations that only cause suffering. Let go of the need to be right, to be understood, to be recognized. You release control and detach because you understand, deep in your soul, that everything that comes to teach. And everything that goes because it has fulfilled its role. This perception brings a peace most don't understand. People look at you and think you don't care anymore. But that's not it. You've just stopped caring about what doesn't carry real weight. You don't despair over small crises. You don't panic over what's out of control. Because you know, in the end, everything passes. It always has. It always will. And this leads you to live very differently. You become more present, more grateful, more aware. You learn to savor simple moments, laugh more, breathe deeper, and look into others' eyes. because you truly understand that life is made of moments, and the only thing we ever have is the now. The rest is illusion, projection, memory, or expectation. The now is real. If you feel, with increasing clarity, that nothing belongs to you, that nothing is fixed, and that everything is always changing, and that this doesn't spark fear but peace, know that this is one of the deepest signs your soul has transcended the attachments of matter, and that now, in your final life, it only wants to live what truly matters and let go of everything that isn't essential. The ninth sign is the emergence of an unshakable certainty, often without logical explanation, that you no longer fear death. Note, this doesn't mean you want to die or devalue life. On the contrary, it means that in the deepest part of your consciousness, you've understood that death never existed. It's just a transition, a change of clothes, a return home. While most people live terrified of the idea of the end, fleeing it, ignoring it, avoiding even thinking about it, those who carry this sign simply accept it, not as sad resignation, but as mature, spiritual, liberating wisdom. You understand that life and death are two sides of the same coin. Your essence, your consciousness, is eternal, unchangeable, indestructible. This awareness completely changes your relationship with everything. You stop living in the desperation to enjoy life at all costs, to consume endlessly, to chase empty pleasures, or to distract yourself from thinking about the end. On the contrary, you begin to live much more presently, more intensely, more authentically, because you know every moment is unique and life doesn't end, it just changes form. Curiously, this sign brings a peace most people can't even imagine, a peace that doesn't come from outside, not from circumstances, money, or others' love, but from within. A silent certainty etched into your soul that everything is in its right place, everything flows perfectly in the universe, and that you are already at peace with your own existence. This lack of fear makes you live with more lightness. You let go of control, anxieties, and the need to hold on to people, things, or situations, because you know everything is transitory. Nothing is fixed. Everything that's born eventually returns to its source. And this isn't sad. It's liberating. It's true spiritual freedom. Even deeper, you begin to realize that this life, this final crossing, is no longer about conquering or accumulating. It's about finalizing, clearing, closing karmic contracts, returning what doesn't belong to you, forgiving what must be forgiven, releasing who needs to be released. It's about leaving this plane with a clean conscience, a light energy, a soul ready to no longer return. If you feel the idea of death no longer terrifies you, if you realize your existence doesn't end here, if you know you are something infinitely greater than this body, this name, this story, understand, this isn't imagination. It's not illusion. It's your soul's own voice, telling you with utter clarity, you're in your final life, and you're ready, far more ready than you think. Few truly understand what it means to be in the final life, because it's not the end. It's not loneliness. It's not disappearance. Quite the opposite. Being in the final life is reaching the highest level of expansion a consciousness can achieve in this universe. It's crossing the finish line. It's concluding, with honor, with wisdom, with light, a journey that spanned hundreds, perhaps thousands, of lifetimes. Buddhist masters explain that when the soul breaks the wheel of samsara, it doesn't vanish. It doesn't fade. It rises. It returns to the purest, freest, most powerful state a consciousness can experience. It stops being a prisoner of the cycle of pain, attachment, fear, and illusion, and becomes pure freedom, pure expanding consciousness, a limitless being without boundaries or suffering. The soul doesn't disappear. It simply stops being conditioned by the laws of matter, time, or space. It becomes a being of pure light, with full awareness of who it is, where it came from, and its true purpose in the cosmos. You're no longer a being trapped in a body. You become an architect of the universe itself, a conscious creator, an active spark in the infinite field of existence. This state isn't empty. It's not absence. It's fullness, expansion, absolute potency. Imagine living a life without pain, without fear, without lack, without doubt, where there's no more separation between you and the whole, no more suffering, anxiety, or need. Your consciousness vibrates in pure love, in peace, clarity, and in total connection with everything that exists. At this level, the soul no longer needs to reincarnate. It no longer needs to learn through pain, attachment, or physical experience. It becomes an agent of light, healing, and transformation in the subtle planes. It can choose to manifest if it wishes. It can assist other consciousnesses. It can act as a guide, protector, or instructor in higher realms. You begin to live in a state of cosmic service, unconditional love, and spiritual contribution. Nirvana isn't an end. It's the crowning of a soul that has completed its mission in matter. It's the ultimate realization, the victory of consciousness over ignorance, suffering, and illusion. It's crossing the finish line with the certainty that every pain, every life, every tear, and every challenge was worth it, because it brought you home. This awareness brings a feeling no human language can fully describe. It's the true sensation of being home, of being whole, complete, fulfilled, at peace, fully connected with the source of everything that exists. It's when the soul stops searching, because it finally remembers it has always been what it was seeking. So, if you recognize the signs, if something inside you vibrated with every word, if you felt this isn't theory, but an ancient memory etched into your soul, understand, you're not nearing the end. You're nearing the beginning of your freest, most powerful, most authentic existence. You're finally coming home. And that is the greatest achievement a soul can experience. If you've stayed this far, that alone says a lot about who you are. Most people don't even notice the signs. They don't want to. They keep rushing through life on autopilot, living only on the surface, never asking what they're really doing here. But not you. You stayed. You listened. You felt. And that already sets you apart. It shows your soul is at a very different stage, much more awake, much more conscious, much closer to liberation. Now, I ask you sincerely, how many of these signs did you feel? How many resonated like memories? Memories you can't explain, but that gave you chills and moved your heart. That's the truth. Your soul already knows. It was just waiting for you to remember. None of this found you by chance. Nothing in this universe happens by accident. If you're here, if these words reached you, it's because there's a calling from the depths of your own essence. A calling to stop living on autopilot, to stop disconnecting from your true self, and to finally honor your journey, your story, your mission. You're not here to just pay bills, survive, and wait for life to pass. You're here to conclude, to finalize, to close this cycle with consciousness, honor, and truth. You're here to clear the last karmas, release the last weights, and finally cross the finish line. With your head high, your soul light, and the certainty that you are coming home. And what's most incredible, you're not alone. There are many like you, ancient souls, old souls, wise souls, scattered across the world who are awakening, feeling the same signs, remembering at the same time that this is the final life, that after this, there is no more pain, no more suffering, only freedom, only light, only fullness. So now, I invite you to make a simple but powerful gesture. Write in the comments, "I felt the signs." Write it as a commitment, as an act of recognition, as a declaration to the universe, your soul, and your spirit. Let it be recorded that you noticed, that you remembered, and that, from today onward, you choose to live your final life consciously, intentionally, and aligned with who you truly are. If this message touched your soul, opened your mind, or sparked something within you, then give a like, subscribe, and share this video with those you feel need to hear it. Here, we don't talk about curiosity. We talk about truth, about awakening, about liberation. If you want to keep receiving content that nourishes your soul, this is the place. Because in the end, life was never about accumulating, competing, or proving anything to anyone. Life has always been, and always will be, about remembering who you are, about breaking free, about coming home. And if you've made it this far, know this: you are not at the end. You are standing at the beginning of your freest, lightest, most powerful, most authentic existence. And this is just the start of your liberation.